Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So I wanted to quickly drop some of my thoughts on the 515 gear score changes and discuss, stash space. But let's look at the 515 gear score matter and just kind of recap on what the developers have said, which is they're not going to make the 515 gear score items exclusive to the Dark Zone, which makes everybody in the community kind of happy. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know if it makes everybody happy, but a lot of the PvE community is like, good job on you guys. You're making the right choice. You're sticking to your own word, because this is what they said prior to the release of the game, that they were going to make sure everything was achievable for every player. So, 515 gear score is not going to be locked behind the Dark Zone. Now, yesterday when Hamish made that announcement, seemed like he was, making the announcement to be very clear, to make sure that the community understood exactly what it was that the developers were going. And I think this is a good job on their part, acknowledging that they will never want to, allow for something like that to happen. And then turn off, a good member or a good base of their community, or cause any division between members of the community, which I would say now leaves the question, now that they're not going to be able to funnel people into the Dark Zone for some kind of high gear score items, what are they going to do to improve PvP? And that's a question that's left for them to answer. So that's good. I think they're making a good step, because according to those who play the PvP in this game, a lot of people have said it. I watch a lot of the PvP content creators. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do, because I don't PvP, so I live vicariously through, Gourmet J and Wids. I just watch them decimate people, and I have a good time just watching them. And so, this brings it to the question, which is, what are they going to do now to enhance the PvP in the game? And I think they have that question left to themselves in order to answer. And so I think now both communities can kind of be, in their separate little bubbles, because I think that's the way the game has always been for most players anyways. Now, there's some players that jump back and forth, that, participate in all of the content in the game, be it PvP or PvE. And, to those players, I feel like, they probably have some concerns, but nothing crazy about this, because in the first place, they could have gone into the Dark Zone if the 515 gear was, solely locked behind that, and they would have been able to farm for that in the DZ, because they participate in PvP and they do DZ stuff. But now it doesn't really necessarily become the case. It's not stringent, and which was a mistake they made in the Division 1, where they locked some of the best gear behind the Dark Zone, which now pivots me to one of the biggest matters at hand, which is stash size. I mean, they're massive. This is a good problem to have. I'm not saying this in a complaining way, like, oh, we don't have enough stash space. No, I'm just trying to highlight that we have a good problem on our hands, which is the problem that we have a lot of loot and we don't have anywhere to keep it. That is actually a good thing, because if you look at the history of the Division game, we used to play the game at a time where getting loot was very, very hard. I mean, it was sparse. They would drop from, specific missions, and incursions were the only places to get some items at one point in the game. And you had to go into the Dark Zone and you had to deal with whatever you met. Sometimes you could farm and get some items, and somebody, just for the heck of it, will come shoot you, take your stuff, and run away. And, it was just the drama of the game, but that seemed to have turned a lot of people away from the game. And so the developers just made it where in patch 1.4 and 1.5, loot was raining from anywhere. In fact, if you body an NPC, they would drop loot. They could drop almost anything at that point. And that's, I think, the direction that they've gone, even with the development of the Division 2. So now that we've had enough loot, and we actually have a little bit more, not even a little bit more, a significantly more stash size than we had in the Division 1. And I would explain how we have more stash space, because one, we don't have to carry our weapon mods anymore. They're all in your crafting bench, and they stay within, some kind of arbitrary space where if you have it, you own it forever, right? So that doesn't add to your stash space. It doesn't in any way deduct from your stash size. And there's also another 100 item space for your mods, and then there's also the space for your caches, your proficiency caches in the field. And then you also have your mail, which is in the Dark Zone, that carries about 30 items. So relatively, we actually have a lot more stash size than we actually, had in the Division 1. But I also think relatively so, the loot drops might be slightly tuned higher than the Division 1 itself, or maybe they're just the same. And we frequently play the game, and we frequently have items, and the game is new to us, so we're just at that place where many of us are just packing and gathering stuff. And I think it will be maybe something nice for the developers to do, to put some kind of gameplay incentive for us to maybe earn more stash size. Now, how do I mean, gameplay parameter of some sort. Maybe they add some, weekly missions or some projects that we can do in order to increase the stash size. This will in turn maybe pull some more players into the game, because right now a lot of people are saying that they're leaving or they're gonna come back to the game after a while, or they've just they just have nothing to actually play the game for. And I can see so the raids weren't released. But if they were to maybe put some weekly activities that we can do to be earning a little bit more stash space, that'd be really nice to do. It'll give us something to play as the community. It's not like, they just need to go ahead and just add stash space. Well, no, maybe you can do a few missions and stuff and it will earn you like, 2 slots for your stash size. And, people can actually use the extra, stash space, or use that as a reason to actually come back and grind the game. I guess another aspect too will be the communication from the launch of the game, where they said, people who are paid for the expensive version were going to get the stash space, extra stash space. And then eventually somehow, somewhere they said, oh, you know what? You're only going to have access to it until everybody else can actually farm their way to getting it. So many people need to be clear on that agreement, because some people feel like they were not given what they were told that they were going to be given, which I think the message kind of was a little bit blurry. So everyone has the same stash size, but if they wanted to make it to the point where those who actually played the game more, who spent more time, were rewarded by doing certain activities to get extra stash space, then they could use that as a mechanic to bring people into playing and getting more space, and people will do it. I mean, I know a lot of people who will be very happy. Some people have even said that they will pay money to actually get more stash space. I mean, I've seen comments like that on my YouTube channel, and that shows you how, some of us are just desperate to get extra stash space. And I'm not complaining that we don't have enough. I think we have more than enough. I'm just saying, could it be that this could be an incentive, or a series of incentives to start bringing community members back to the game? Either way, I want to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think we need more stash space, or do you think we need more discipline? You think we need to learn how to maybe manage our items more effectively and be able to pick and choose and organize? Leave that in the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going. That's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for your time and audience. I appreciate your participation. I appreciate you guys just communicating and continuing to, be a part of this community. And I guess I'll see you in my next video. Peace.